Welcome back. Do you have an estate plan? Well, today we're going to scare the wits out of you if you don't. We have 4 scary things that can happen to you if you're going about life without that plan in place. Dan Krause is an attorney with Krause Estate Planning and Elder Law Center. He is here to protect your assets and make sure the boogeyman stays exactly where he's supposed to be, and that is in the closet, right?
Exactly. Yes.
We don't want the boogeyman out.
Halloween's coming up and things are scary. They're getting scary out there. I've seen people with their skeletons in their yards and it makes me scared.
They're scary costumes. Well, you know what? It is scary not to have a plan. And especially if there are people in your life who you love, who you want to have your things. It really pays, and it's a smart call to have a plan, isn't it?
You know, some people are scared of attorneys, but I see that you're not too scared of attorneys, or maybe you're wearing your garlic around your neck or something like that. But one of the things that really scares, that's scary about not having an estate plan is probate. If you don't have a plan and you have over $50,000 worth of assets, you have to go into a court procedure. And the courts in themselves can be scary because you never know what's going to come out of that.
Yeah, everybody it seems wants to avoid probate. That is a scary thing.
It is a scary thing. And another thing about probate that many people don't consider is that it's public. So most things that happen in the court is a public area. So your stuff, if it goes through probate, is going to be available for your neighbors to see how much money you had, how many properties you had, and not only the neighbors, but it's the data miners, the people that are looking for money, looking for people to scam. They can see how much money you had and how much is passing to your children. They know when it's going to pass to your children, and they can target then for looking for money.
I had not heard that before, but that's such an important thing because you think it's going to be private and something that stays between you and your heirs, but that is not the case, clearly, if it goes to probate. Now, we said we're going to talk about 4 scary things. That was one. Number 2, another issue that comes up when you don't have a plan is what? What's another scary thing?
Well, I'm going to change it up on you because I think your notes say something different, but this is really scary, and we see this happen all the time. People with second marriages or third marriages, and they have children that are not the children of their spouse.
Yep.
If they don't have a plan, we see this happen all the time. There's a huge fight and between your children and your spouse, something that you would really definitely not want to have happen. So if you can write it out, what you would want to have happen and who gets what, it avoids those fights, it smooths things over, it makes things go quickly so that your spouse and your children, if they don't get along, they can have separate lives. They don't have to fight over your stuff.
And that's a legacy I think most of us want to leave, is one of not having conflict and fighting.
Peacefulness.
Peacefulness is good. What's a third scary thing that can happen if you don't have a plan in place?
So people that you don't like may get all of your stuff.
How does that happen?
Well, there's this rule, if you don't have an estate plan, the state has one for you. So the state decides where your stuff goes. It's usually to your closest relatives. I want to give you an example from history. James Dean.
Okay.
Many people know of James Dean. He died in the 1950s. He was a big movie star. He died at 24 years of age. Not surprisingly, he didn't have an estate plan. He had a sad childhood. His mother died when he was young, maybe 8 years old or so, and then his father essentially abandoned him to his mother's sister. So he was raised by his aunt, and he and his father did not get along. Guess what happened when he died?
His dad got everything.
His dad got everything, millions of dollars every year for the rest of his dad's life because of all of those royalties and everything, and the aunt got nothing.
So sad.
Yes, and this kind of thing can happen to people who have estranged children. I talk to people who haven't talked to these kids in 50 years, and they don't think that that child is going to get anything when they die, but they will. Yeah. They'll have to search that child and give them the money.
That's terrible. Okay, last scary thing. There's one more nightmare you want to talk about. If you don't have a plan in place, what's something that can happen?
Yes, and this nightmare can happen even during your life, not just after your death. It's running out of money. If you end up sadly in a nursing facility or an assisted living place those are expensive.
Long-term care.
Yes, exactly. And people can't afford that with their income, so they have to spend out of their savings until they have nothing left. And the scary part is living without security. You have no money, you have no security, you really have no choices, and you're dependent completely on the government. So that can also happen.
So there's a way with estate planning and will and the way you can protect yourself legally to avoid having long-term care rob you of every last penny.
Exactly.
Another important reason to talk to someone like you. Thank you so much, Dan,
Yes.
for scaring the wits out of us.
All right, I'll try not to be scary in the office.